The movie? Yes, not bad. Coming out to do my review, setting up my phone to record it, dropped the phone, ended up cracking my screen. Right there. Maybe one day I'll be able to use a machine and go back and relive the glory days of when my phone had no crack in it. Reminiscence is a brand new sci-fi movie that stars Hugh Jackman, Thandie Newton, Rebecca Ferguson, and Cliff Curtis. The first thing I noticed as soon as the movie kicked off was that it had some pretty strong Christopher Nolan-esque vibes going on, especially when it comes to the cinematography. The movie was written and directed by Lisa Joy, who I'm not familiar with at all, so I'm not sure if this was her first movie or if she has done stuff in the past. I'll have to look her up, but she did a decent job here, and she did a great job at emulating that Christopher Nolan feeling. And then when the end credits rolled, you can see that Jonathan Nolan was a producer. Okay. So that all sort of makes more sense now. The movie is set in near future Miami after climate change has caused the oceans to rise, which has flooded most of the city. Also, the planet has become so hot that most of humankind has resorted to becoming nocturnal and live by night. That right there is a really cool setup, and the shots of the flooded city with everybody sort of getting around on boats in the worst areas looks really awesome. And when the characters are walking through the streets where the water levels haven't gotten that bad, it's still got water everywhere, kind of like how it would be after a torrential downpour. Everything about the city, it just always feels wet. And that right there is a really cool backdrop for this entire story to take place on. It kind of makes the city feel like a character in and of itself. That dramatic change in the world has of course also caused the insanely rich people to sort of seclude themselves off from the rest and create this place called the dry land where things are exactly like they used to be. And they've built this huge cement moat or dam to keep everyone else out. There was also a war that broke out when the waves came, as a lot of the characters put it, during which this memory recall technology was created so that prisoners could be interrogated. Basically what the technology does is you go into this big bath and you've got this headset on and somebody sort of narrates to you to calm you down, sort of like hypnosis, and they lead you through your memories. So while you're in the tank, it's almost like you're there, and people say that they can feel it and they can touch their missed loved ones and whatnot. They don't really go into any sort of explanation on how that was leveraged in the war, but we see it where it is now. Since the war ended, companies have sort of taken this memory recall technology and made it available as a luxury escape for people. Since there's not a lot to look forward to in the future, everybody clings on to the good memories from their past. And that's kind of what really supports the whole idea of this movie. If you had the ability to constantly relive the best memories of your life, wouldn't you do that? I'm pretty sure we've all felt that from time to time. Like, we had such good times that we would just want to remember them. Especially as we get older, that stuff just starts to fade. I mean, we say they were the good old days for a reason, right? So that premise makes it super easy to relate to what's going on. So Hugh Jackman plays Nick. He and Thandie Newton's character Watts run a sort of welfare version of the memory recall. They're not really going up against the big companies, but they're offering it as an alternative for those who can't really afford to pay those high premiums. It's a very cliched idea where Nick he's a nice guy and he lets people do it for free. And of course, then Thandie Newton saying, our books are getting out of whack and everybody owes us money and we're going to be put out of business. That typical stuff is happening with them. And then the movie really kicks off when Rebecca Ferguson's character May comes to Hugh Jackman at one point and says, "Hey, I forgot my keys and I can't find them. Can I please use your technology to help me trace back my steps so you can see where I left them," which is something that they can do. And the way it works is when the person's in the tank, there's a big projected display so that the people that are doing the procedure, most of the time it's Hugh Jackman and Thandie Newton's characters, they can see what's going on in the memory. So it makes sense. He goes back into May's memory and Nick can see where she left her keys. Cool. That's a little meet cute for these characters. Anyway, Nick and May end up having this very fast budding relationship and they completely fall in love with each other. But then one day May just up and leaves without explanation and Nick sets out to find out what happened. And that's where the movie really starts to feel sort of like an old gumshoe mystery movie, which I thought was really cool. And it played well into the whole layout of the city at night with the neon and the water. If nothing else, this movie feels really cool and it's awesome to look at. The story itself is alright, yeah, he's gonna unravel the mystery. May isn't who she seemed to be. Did she even love him? Was she something else? What else was going on? It's fairly predictable in that sense. When it comes to the performances in the movie, everybody was fine, everybody was functional. I don't know that anybody faltered, but I don't know that anybody really stood out either. It is all functional. The only thought that I did have, and I hate to say this because I really like Rebecca Ferguson, but I think she might have been wrong for this role. She's got this like commanding presence, especially in the Mission Impossible movies. So when I see her, she plays this sort of like night lounge singer at a place called the Coconut Club. When you see her going through the motions of performing and singing in the bar, it just doesn't seem to fit her. That was my only real weird note that I made about the performances. It's cool because the movie presents these things that can happen when it comes to the memory recall technology, like people can get burned and they'll be stuck in this state of just constantly reliving the one memory they were burned with over and over and over again. That's a little bit of foreshadowing. And while I personally felt like the movie was a little heavy-handed with the romance aspect, I was quite happy with the way it ended up. It doesn't stay focused in that sort of lovey-dovey nonsense way, and that is just sort of the driving point for everything else that happens in it. There was a little bit of a convenience in the plot that I was like, all right, because like all the stuff that happens with May, okay, she leaves and Nick's got to try to figure out what happened to her, but completely unrelated to that, Nick and Watts are also helping the DA interrogate this prisoner by going back into his memories to try and find this crime boss so they can bring him down. And of course, when they're going through his memories, May pops up in this random person's memories that Nick just happens to be helping with. I mean, okay, we got to keep us focused and, going down the right path so the movie doesn't get off track, but it felt a little too convenient. The best things about this movie really are, like I said, the cinematography. Miami and the way that they've shot it, and it's obviously computerized for the most part, but it looks really cool. The feeling, the tone, everything about that I think was my favorite part. A lot of the shots in this movie could easily just be screensavers and they would be breathtaking. If they ever greenlight the BioShock movie again, I think Lisa Joy and her cinematographer should be the ones that they tap to do it, because I got a lot of strong Rapture vibes. There's this one character that's been burned and she's stuck living in this loop. But anyways, there's a scene where Nick has to go see her and she's had this whole thing set up in her house because she's one of the rich people, so she can do whatever she wants. And it's this old like clock shop, just the exterior of it. And just those shots immediately made me feel that's Rapture. So that's my advice. Should BioShock ever get back on track, Lisa Joy's probably your gal. The movie was good, I just don't know that it's going to stick with me in the long run. It's a Warner Brothers movie, so it's available on HBO Max. If you like Hugh Jackman and you like Christopher Nolan, you might want to give it a watch. It's not at any height of Christopher Nolan's bonkers nonsense that he does, which isn't a knock. His stuff's just quality and confusing. This, not so much. It's got quality that's not quite there, but you can see the potential that this director has. The story is just, like I said, meh in middle of the road. I'm going to give Reminiscence a 7 out of 10. It's a beautiful movie to look at. The performances are solid enough, except for I do think Rebecca Ferguson was a little miscast. But it's a decent science fiction crime thriller at the end of the day. How about you guys? Have you had a chance to see Reminiscence yet? If you have, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one.